All right, all right, all right. It is my favorite time, of the show where we get to talk about family, get to talk about health. We also just get to talk about a lot, especially on parenting. For those of you that have siblings, for those of you that have family members, those of you that have plans to have children, this is going to be a very interesting segment because we have someone who's going to be talking a lot about the dynamics of siblings. We have Anu Akinola. She has had over 20 years experience working with young children, their families, and creating awareness on the importance of early childhood education. Currently, she is the center director and founder of Extra All Kids Child Care Center, where she leads a team providing custodian care and educational services to children under 5 years and spearheads the Pop-Up Crèche. We're happy to have you. You're welcome once again.
I'm so glad to be here today again. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So it's interesting because you're going to be talking about, the dynamics of, siblings. But let me just understand, what is it with children and siblings that, makes them go through certain issues and, problems in the family? How do we explain that, the dynamics in it?
Okay, when we're talking about sibling dynamics, we have to really consider some things as parents because, it won't be the same in every family. And there are some things that, makes those variables happen. Your own parenting style as a parent, the number of children you have, their ages, even their sex, the position they are in the family, maybe a first child, middle child, or a last child. And then also their temperaments, so the kind of child that you have. So if you have two children, they will never be the same. So all those kind of variables determine the kind of, the dynamics to having siblings, having two children, how they relate, how they're able to love each other, how they're able to resolve conflicts, and, the way you handle the way you see the dynamics and the way you handle it as a parent is going to go a long way how these children are able to relate after. You see a lot of families, when they are much older, they are not able to relate. They can't even see eye to eye. They grew up in the same home, but when they lose a family, they fight over will, So there are a lot, it could really turn out in the wrong direction. Right. But if you understand it from the start and you are able to apply the right principles and use the correct parenting skills, you are sure to have a family that is together, that is in love, And then you see that the family is not just transactional, there's that relationship.
All right. I think you said a lot about parenting style. My question here is, how do you, as a parent, for parents, how do you handle kids that feel, maybe their parent love one sibling way more than the other? They feel left alone. Daddy doesn't like me. Daddy likes this other. How do you correct that? How do you handle that?
Okay, so there's that tendency for parents to fall into that. Like, let me use the word trap.
Trap. Okay.
Yeah, because we're human, and so as a person, you will like some things more than the others, especially maybe a child looks like you, a child behaves like you, so there's that tendency. But I think one of the things that help parents to be able to guard against that is to understand their child as individuals and to know that it's their responsibility to love that child the way that child wants to be loved, not the way they want to be loved. For example, nobody wants to be spoken to in a language they don't understand.
True.
If I come here and I start speaking French, you become confused, you become irritated, and then you feel unseen. So a lot of times when children, so for parents, a lot of times they are speaking the language they understand. It might not be the language the child understands. So on the part of the child is thinking my parent or my father or my mother does not love me, loves this other person. Because probably they're speaking the language of that other child. So when I mean language, usually I always advise parents, because parenting is a journey that you need a lot of knowledge. And so you have to be deliberate in knowing your child, because you are not going to use the same principle. It's not like one size fits all. Parenting is not one size. So you must understand each child and apply the principles specific to that child. So you must adapt it. So if you don't understand your child, you don't know the kind of temperament, what's your child's love language? Everyone has a preferred love language.
Okay.
This is the way I want to be loved.
I'm trying to think of my brother and his love language. I don't know. But yeah, but go ahead.
So if you have 4 children and you're speaking each other's language, then nobody will feel left out, because you're speaking each language to each child. But if you speak one specific language, maybe it's your own preferred language to all the children, and just one child has that language, that child was going to enjoy the benefits of having you as a parent, while the others will feel neglected.
Okay, but don't you think that if you have 3 kids, for example, and then one of them loves gifts, and then you buy lots of gifts for that one, the others won't feel some kind of way, even if that's not their love language?
So when you're dealing with your children, especially when they're young, you're going to use all the 5 love languages.
Wow, all 5.
All of them, you're going to use it. But as your children grow older, especially when they leave the early stages, they tend to have one particular preferred language.
Okay.
And it's not to say you are going to ignore the other love languages, but you are going to make that other preferred one dominant over every other thing. I have 2 children.
Okay.
And an older child, 17, and a older male, and then the younger female.
Oh, welcome. Nice.
My younger female child loves gifts. When she was young, you could see that was her love language, because everything is always about buy. If you say, don't use that word buy in our home, she will change it, say, mommy, purchase. She'll just use it. But you see every time.
I have another question. So, in a case where you have like 3 kids, there is this there is this, I don't want to call it a rumor, but there is this thing that's around where they say the middle child is always often forgotten. Where, the first child and the last child gets the greatest care, but the middle child is always forgotten, because I'm a middle child. So I just wanted to know, is there a thing with parents that really don't care so much about the middle child?
Well, if you observe, a lot of middle children are always very empathic. They're always like the peace bearers. Everybody just wants to make everyone calm.
I am the peace bearer.
So for parents, there's that tendency for them to feel, oh, this child is all right, this is the best, and not focus. And then focus on the first child. Oh, I have to train this child has to take care of everyone. This child has to be the trophy, model child. And then the last child, is to be pampered. Maybe that child came when everything was much more comfortable.
Right.
So there could be that tendency. But to round up on that first question that you asked, it's important that you are using the dominant. So if that middle child also has a dominant love language and you use it, that child feels good.
All right. Yeah. I have another question. How do you curb the problems with, the conflict between kids or children, when 2 children having a fight or having an issue, and then they run to mommy and say, mommy, this is what this person did, this one. What's the best way to solve that problem?
So conflict resolution is a skill. As is a skill for adults, it's also a skill in children. And it has to be taught. So as a family, you should have code of conduct. Let me put it that way, like we have in an organization. This is how we resolve conflict. This is not how to resolve conflict. So you teach them the negotiation skill. How do you trade? I want something, and this other person wants it. What can I give in return? So that's a negotiation skill. Also, how to share, how to take turns. Those are skills that you must teach as your children start early. Because if you start early, then it becomes easy for the children to adapt to that kind of lifestyle. But generally in your home, have a code of conduct. This is how we resolve conflict. We don't go below the belt, and model it as a parent yourself. If you're having issues with your spouse, there's a how to behave. There's a how to talk in this house. There's a how not to. And when we go in that direction, this is what we do. So have that conversations regularly in your home, and also as a parent, model it. If you say, oh, our code of conduct, we don't shout, then you don't shout as well.
All right, thank you very much. You can join the conversation on social media. I'm using the hashtag #WakeUpNigeria. This is interesting because, I have a brother, a very stubborn boy at home. And if there's something I really just got from you, is the parenting style. And, always love to say I love you from time to time.
Yeah.
Agree? All right, so we'll be right back after the short break. Don't go nowhere. It's still Wake Up Nigeria. Thank you.